they're selling you all wolf tickets, people. You're eating them right up.
Hey, pussy, are you still there?
I back. Trust me, I back.
But I'm not impressed by your performance.
You'll do nothing. You'll do nothing. Shut your fucking mouth, you'll do nothing. You'll do fucking nothing. Not one of you will do nothing.
I'll tell you what, bro. I was out there, I was fighting all the hitters, bro. You ain't fought no hitters.
Come on, guys. It's normal.
I'm not saying I would fight you. I would kill you.
John, do you think I'm just gonna sit there and let you kill me, John? I mean, really?
No, don't be scared, homie. I'd like to take this chance to apologize to absolutely nobody. The double champ does what the fuck he wants.
I'm gonna beat you into the living death. I mean, maybe that's your job, but where I come from, people like that get slapped.
That's fucking illegal.
Nick Diaz, you just shook up the world. How's that feel?
Hey, I'm not surprised, motherfuckers.
Yeah, this is a simulated death match. And you haven't simulated anybody's death yet.
I said it last year. We're not here just to take part. We're here to take over.
What is the game plan going in against him?
The game plan is you go in there, hit him with some good shit, don't get hit, and come home with a pocket full of cash.
Who the fuck is that guy?
Everybody's on steroids. The whole UFC, everybody.
I'm gonna go home tonight. I'm gonna drink a Coors Light. That's a Coors Light because Bud Light won't pay me nothing.
Do you want to be a fighter? That is my question.
Any of you radio personalities think you want smoke? Call me Mr. Chimney. I want smoke.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Walk of Shame. It's your man, Ant Walker here. Obviously, you're on the Walkout Network, and we decided to mix things up a little bit. Excuse me for stealing the intro from Mixed Combat Radio, but that's because we've stolen the host and founder of Mixed Combat Radio, Matt Hunter. What's going on, Matt?
What's up, guys? Obviously, Walkout Network, hit the like button, share the show, all that fun stuff. UFC Tampa just went down. Joanna defeating Michelle Waterson via dominating decision, just beating up for 5 rounds. And we're going to break down the whole card. So stay tuned and call in 323-870-4051 and press 1 to get in the queue if you want to call in and give your thoughts about the fights as well.
All right. And of course, we've got a trio today, and that third person is the long lost co-host of the Trenches, Sherdog.com's Captain Credential. You know him as Jason Burgos. Jason, what's going on?
I'm good. I think the right, title would be long missed host of the Trenches, but I'm excited. I'm excited to talk UFC Tampa. I'm actually glad UFC Tampa is over because the greatest show in MMA history is on right now on TNT, and I want to talk a little bit about that. That UFC Tampa thing, that's old news now, right, guys?
Well, actually, Jason, let's be corrected about this. Let's be totally accurate. This is not the greatest event in mixed martial arts history.
What?
This is the greatest event in martial arts history.
Yes.
You understand?
Yes.
We haven't seen
70
an event
million
of this magnitude since Bruce Lee went over to that little island and kicked the dude in the scar.
Yes.
Kicked him in the chest. So that's it. All right.
We are one of the 70 million right now. Can you believe it? We are one right now.
We're part of the entire solar system watching one championship. But let's talk about the fights that people actually give a shit about, and that would be UFC Tampa. Yes. So we got to get into it, man. Joanna had a extremely dominant decision over Michelle Waterson. I wasn't surprised by this fight at all. How it played out, it looked to me that Joanna was just the bigger person, the stronger person, and that ended up being what ultimately decided who won and who lost. So, gentlemen, am I crazy on that one?
Yes and no. I mean, Jason made a point briefly before we got on that. Basically, not to take your sort of point here, Jason, but that Michelle Waterson maybe isn't really that as good as she has been marketed, as she has been promoted, as maybe she has been sold to the consumers and the fans. And I think my ultimate point to add to what Jason may go on and say himself is that I think Waterson's main issue has always been efficiency. Is that while she technically does a lot of great things, she is not an efficient fighter in any sense of the word. And that has always hurt her. And if you look at Joanna Jędrzejczyk, she is one of the more efficient fighters, not only in that division, but in all of MMA. So I think clearly there was a technical and stylistic flaw here in the matchup for Michelle Waterson, besides the size, the reach advantage that Jędrzejczyk has against Waterson. And Waterson, I think, obviously has to face on a usual basis in this division.
All right, Jason, man, give me your thoughts. I know Matt kind of stole a point of yours, but
sorry,
what was your
stole the thunder?
I'm sorry.
Did this your expectations at all?
I mean, it really went kind of exactly as I expected. Just to add on to what Matt said, as he said what I said. Yeah, I don't know where it's from, but there's the saying, somewhere maybe a movie, a song. There's levels to this shit, and just Joanna's just a little bit higher, and that's not to say anything is wrong with Karate Hottie, but she's very good. She's very talented, but Joanna is just a really high level striker. I mean, things have changed a little bit with the losses, but for a long time, she was in the conversation as one of the best strikers in MMA, or at least in the UFC. A lot of people respected her on that level. She's an elite level striker. And if it's going to be a points fight, I mean, she's usually going to win. It's going to take someone of Shevchenko's level, who's a pound for pound fighter, to beat her. Even the Rose Namajunas had trouble the second time. She's a high level fighter. And I think the only chance Waterson really was going to have is maybe to use that karate, maybe catch Joanna with something unexpected, a really unique kick or spinning kick or something like that. But even then, Joanna's defense has always been very good. Joanna has often proven she has a pretty good chin, aside from the Rose Namajunas fight. Even when she's been hurt, she always recovers very quickly. So it's hard to hit her. It's hard to finish her as is. And then I was a little bit surprised. I mean, not surprised. I understand why they were trying to go with the wrestling game plan. They probably knew better. We're not going to outpoint her and stand up and beat her. Let's try wrestling. But that's like Kenny Florian trying to wrestle Jose Aldo. That's not your game plan. That's not your strength. So to come and try to institute it now against also, again, adding to the praise on Joanna, her takedown defense has always been fantastic. And if you take her down, she gets right back up. So the fact that Waterson's going to be the one to take her down and all of a sudden Nurmagomedov her wasn't likely. So there was just too many variables against her for me going into this fight. And the fight kind of played out like I expected, a masterclass by Joanna, showing that she's still a high-level fighter.
See, I just think that we'd be having a different conversation if the size disadvantage wasn't there. Now, I'm not saying that Joanna isn't a better striker than Michelle Waterson overall, or that she isn't the superior mixed martial artist, and I think tonight proved that. But I think a lot of those exchanges proved what it looked like to have a natural atom weight fighting a big strawweight. That was kind of the major takeaway for me, because I do think there were some of those exchanges where Waterson is landing some good shots. She had a couple of good combinations off. She landed a couple solid looking body kicks. I think at certain times she had decent understanding of the range and what was necessary to be successful there. But once the size and strength got on her and she's pushed up against that fence and she's got Joanna's weight on her and dragging her and whatnot, it just, I think that kind of spelled the end. But still, if you put them equal, yes, I would say Joanna is the better striker. But still, just food for thought there. So unless let me jump into the YouTube chat for just a second here. We got Tommaso Mark, who's a regular on the Walk of Shame. What's up, Tommaso? Talking, he wants to celebrate Cub Swanson's win. We are definitely going to get into that. That is a very interesting fight to dissect. He says, I believe Michelle is good. I just find her inside boxing questionable, which is why I found the matchup favorable. I find Michelle similar to Rockhold with her boxing. Now, I'm not upset at that. I don't think her boxing defense is that bad, because Rockhold is really one of the worst defensive fighters when it comes to just a pure hand standpoint.
Wow.
That to get that high level of in MMA, when you're talking about this guy was a champion and defended the Strikeforce belt, like to have boxing defense that bad, I think that's.
I think from an offensive standpoint, I think it's a really good comparison. Maybe not defensively, because I think obviously Waterson has far better defense than Luke Rockhold, but offensively, they offer a very simplistic, loose counter-striking game that, again, is fairly inefficient. And isn't really utilized in a 10-point must system at all. Like it can't be. And I think that's probably the comparison maybe Tomas was trying to make. Because defensively, I think you're right. Waterson's far better.
Yeah, like that's.
But
Waterson's
offensively,
really
in terms of like what shots they're trying to land, what counters they're trying to set up, they are similar. Both their stances, their karate style stances, the way they bounce on their toes is similar. The way they sort of throw a lot of kicks for just kind of show and for feints. But again, that all goes into inefficiency.
All right. Cole Sheldon in the chat, the Judas of Sherdog.com.
Jesus, Shelton, yes.
Great guy.
Let's be real. This was practically a flyweight against an atomweight. He's a smart man saying smart things for a change. That's what's up, Cole. Good point there. All right, Rob Iman with a very with saying something that we have yet to mention, but is a very obvious statement. Joanna versus Zhang should be next. Anybody in disagreement? Who?
The
I don't know.
The only other name would be Tatiana Suarez, right? I mean,
yeah, yep.
That's it.
Yeah. Would you guys rather see Tatiana Suarez instead of Joanna?
I would. I mean, Joanna, she that's her first win in what, like 2 years or something like that, right? For Joanna, maybe more.
Let me make sure I have the date right. But she last beat
Her last one. Oh, did she fight Torres before Shevchenko? Or after?
Yes. That was before Shevchenko.
Okay, so she's 1-3 in her last.
Yeah, that was about a year and a half ago.
Yeah. I mean, I just feel like, I mean, I don't know. I guess if you want to count Tisha Torres, that she went away, and she's got 2 pretty good wins. I just feel like Tatiana Suarez has done enough. I know everybody pooped on her win for like not going in there and destroying Nina Ansaroff, but Nina Ansaroff's a good fighter. She beat her. I think that was enough. She's undefeated. It's a fascinating matchup with her wrestling and stuff like that. You know, you haven't seen wrestling like that in this weight class, for at least on the women's side. So I preferred, but yeah, money talks. It's probably going to be Joanna.
And on top of it, just play devil's advocate, because I do largely agree with everything that Jason just said, and my personal feelings are I would rather have a Tatiana Suarez Weili Zhang fight. I think that's a far more competitive fight, and it answers who's really the next person in the division, so to speak.
The showcase,
but I think combat sports, prize fighting has a long tradition of wanting to have that passing the torch moment, and with Thug Rose having her sabbatical and that passing the torch moment kind of being not ruined in a sense, but
kind of on ice,
squandered at least. You know, like we don't have Thug Rose being the potential superstar in the women's divisions like she was sort of on the way to be. That's gone now, in a sense. She's lost that momentum. Now you sort of bring Jędrzejczyk back to sort of infuse some more casual interest in the division, because it kind of needs that. You know, Andrade Zhang in China was a sign that the UFC didn't think the casual fans were interested in that fight in this division. Jędrzejczyk versus Zhang could be in Las Vegas, could be in New York. You know, there's places that fight could end up that is more of a media-friendly market, and that's because they think that could be a passing the torch moment potentially for the division. And on top of that, if Zhang beats Jędrzejczyk, it will add more to her brand and reputation than beating Tatiana Suarez. Even though we all in this tiny space will agree and admit that Tatiana Suarez is probably the tougher fight right now.
But I got a question for you both.
What's up?
I mean, the obvious thing, if and I agree with that, that makes a lot of sense. If Tatiana Suarez is not given the title shot, to me, the next obvious best fight for her would be Jessica Andrade. Though, since we're talking about she is one of the up-and-coming stars along with Weili Zhang, is that maybe too dangerous of a fight? Because if, let's say, and it's not a bad fight, I want the fight, but if Jessica Andrade wins, I believe she lost to Zhang and she lost to Joanna, so she's probably not going to get a title shot. Yeah. So you eliminate a young rising star. So where do you go with Suarez then?
I agree with that. Like, because with Suarez, the thing is, like, the way she got finished by Weili Zhang. I mean, the way Andrade got finished by Weili Zhang, it kind of you don't want to see that again anytime soon. And also Suarez showed. I think the whole criticism of Suarez after the Nina Ansaroff fight wasn't because she didn't destroy Ansaroff, it's because she got pieced up in that last round, and she got handled on the striking. So you put in someone like Andrade who hits really hard in the same scenario, and someone who's shown themselves able to be a good anti-grappler as well. you're creating a recipe for disaster if you want Tatiana Suarez to be the next in line. Now, what I say that Tatiana Suarez deserves the title shot more than Joanna, but I'd rather see the Joanna fight simply because the style matchup seems more exciting to me. It seems like Matt alluded to, more of a passing the torch moment. And quite frankly, I don't think that fight needs to be in Vegas. That fight needs to be in China.
I'll be on. Look, the Chinese market's going to be a market that's going to be explored far more for the UFC, so it's possible. It is. I don't know if you can make the argument that Zhang Jacek is a better fight than Zhang Suarez. And for this, I'll make a simple comparison, and it might not be a comparison that you guys agree with, but I think it's a fair comparison. That'd be like saying Usman Masvidal is a more competitive fight than Usman Covington. You know, like, that's just not true. They're different style matchups. You know, it's not much of a, two of the same styles clashing. But
I didn't mean competitive. I meant from a style perspective, just more intriguing.
Okay.
I think they both. I don't know. I think I might go as far as say they are even, because in the end, when you look at the styles of Joanna versus Zhang, Joanna, like we just talked about, is a high level striker. Yes. Zhang's gonna have a lot of problem with her, and then Suarez, the wrestling's gonna be a problem. But I feel like Joanna's striking may be a bigger problem for Zhang than even Suarez's wrestling, because Zhang's a fucking beast.
Zhang's one of those weird fighters where she does everything above average and everything.
Very true. But not Joanna's striking level.
No.
And Joanna's hard to take down too.
And Joanna has faced a lot more varied competition as far as the style. So you look at her title reign. The way she handled a Claudia Gadelia, the way she handled Andrade, like, she's handled a variety of styles and weird combinations of offense and defense and grappling and striking that where it seems like she'd be the one that's better prepared to fight Weili Zhang, at least from an experience standpoint.
Yeah.
I'll make another comparison. I think that a Jacek Zhang fight would probably even look like maybe a Holloway Ortega fight, where Ortega is a guy that's probably the better athlete, all around good at everything. But Max Holloway is clearly the better striker. He has the one category he is clearly better at his opponent. I think maybe that could play in a way for Jacek Zhang, where Zhang is all around really talented, really skilled, probably the better athlete at this point in time as well, probably stronger at this point in time, but Jacek is clearly better in one single category. And that could sort of tip the balance at the end of the day.
All right, so we got a question from Cole on the chat, and Rob Iman. Shout out to Rob Iman, who's the constant matchmaker of this show. So he's dropped a bunch of suggestions about upcoming fights, and Rob, I promise we will get to some of the suggestions that you've laid out there. But Cole's got a question. Says, do you think Zhang is still kind of a mystery to fans of how good she is, given we haven't seen much and the Andrade fight ended so quickly?
She shouldn't be. I don't think she should be. I think if you had, for the average UFC fan, I'm using that term specifically, yes, she is still a mystery. For the people that are listening to this show right now, she shouldn't be. I'll make that distinction.
Yeah. I mean, that makes perfect sense. I mean, but the people who are listening to this show are
agreed,
clearly diehards.
Absolutely.
We're all knuckleheads right now.
Absolutely. But I think we've seen Zhang enough to make a good assessment of her and her skills and her talent set.
I'll put it in a different way. I'll pose it a different way. I would say switch it to a mystery in general to a mystery as an elite level fighter, because she's had good, solid competition, and beating Andrade is a major thing. But you never know with those fights.
And Tisha Torres,
never unsure. And even with Nama Yunus, when she knocked out Joanna, we weren't going, "Oh man, those roses, no doubt." Everybody was kind of like, "Well, I don't know." We all know she's very talented. Want to see it again. So I feel it's sort of the same almost what happened with Rose. We know she's very talented, but when you want to be the elite fighter, the champion fighter, we want to see them go through a title defense or two, or fight some of the elites for a bit. So I feel like she's a top fighter. As a mystery, as a legitimate champion, I think she's still a mystery. I'm still unsure if she's like the best top three. Maybe it's Joanna. Maybe it's still Rose. I'm curious a little bit.
Yeah, a lot of questions should be answered when that fight happens. But I still say it belongs in China. Don't worry about Zhang's visa issues. Develop your star in that market. And the great Anthony has spoken. By the way, we gotta point out that right now on TNT we're watching One Championships.
Well, you guys are.
Oh yeah, you're not looking at it.
I'm watching
because you're watching the Usyk fight.
I'm watching Usyk find the zone. Yes.
Yeah. Tyrone Spong. Tyrone Spong would have gotten his business.
No, he
Can
wouldn't.
I talk some one championship? Can we talk about Christian Lee?
They're kickboxing in little gloves right now, so I had to acknowledge how wonderful that is.
But since we're talking about matchups, I mean, we should acknowledge Christian Lee beating Doggy. That's a big win, and I think that might have guaranteed Eddie Alvarez is probably getting a title shot now. Because if Doggy would have beat Christian Lee, it would have set up a probably rematch for the title. But this guy, and that's crazy. Christian Lee is now the Grand Prix champion with just one win, which is totally one championship. But
it's always the problem with MMA tournaments. Yeah. Like it's always the problem. It's such an injury-prone sport, and strange things tend to always happen here. That the alternates find their way making it far in tournaments. So
yeah.
All right, so let's go ahead and talk about this co-main event. Kron Gracie got a lesson in mixed martial arts against Cub Swanson.
It was amazing.
Now I picked Kron Gracie to win this fight, but for good reason. For good reason. I mean, clearly, Cub Swanson is the better mixed martial artist. But I mean, he's a guy who's very well past his expiration date. He's also a guy.
I agree.
He's also a guy who will engage you in areas where he doesn't need to because he's got that knucklehead mentality. And I like to reference the Du Ho Choi fight as a sign of that. While he did get his hand raised, that was a fight where he didn't have to go in there and stand and bang with the guy who's so good at standing and banging. And that Cub Swanson, you put him in against a specialist like Kron Gracie, especially a guy who he has a personal history with. There's some feud there, and maybe he gets riled up. Maybe he wants to play to his ego and play it on the ground. He also has his own Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, despite having so many submission losses. So I guess either one, Kron is more one-dimensional than we previously thought, or Cub, or maybe it's a little bit of both, or Cub isn't as washed as we thought. So which one is it, or is it a little bit of both?
You have a 5-0 MMA fighter with zero striking experience, zero striking training. The best strikers he's sparring with are the Diaz brothers. And, like, I know we give the Diaz brothers props for being, like, the greatest boxers in MMA. But
hipster boxer rant.
But look, you look at everyone else in that gym, they suck at boxing. They suck at striking, okay? They have not been able to produce anyone else that is even marginally close to being an efficient striker. Even
Jake Shields is a great striker.
I will slap you across this computer screen right now, okay? Stop. So I don't know why people were thinking Kron Gracie was going to win this fight. I don't know why people thought that he was going to be anything at this point in time. The guy is clearly a nut job that is just doing this just to do it. And he's like a really good athlete that's a hippie doing DMT thinking the earth is flat. So whenever I hear all those things in accordance with each other for one person, I'm not picking him to beat the guy that has 30-plus fights, has been a perennial top 10 guy in this division for, God, a decade? No. And then add onto that, he actually has some of the best boxing in MMA. No, this fight was an easy fight to pick.
Anthony, can I take this? Because I'm going to agree with you, Anthony.
Okay, yeah.
Oh my God.
Please. Absolutely, Captain.
What do you say? Please, help.
I agree with you 1,000% on everything you said, because this fight for me was one of the harder ones for me to decide, because everything you're saying, Matt, is true. Cub Swanson is the better fighter. Kron Gracie is out of his fucking mind. He's a weirdo. But as Anthony said, two key things. Cub is getting long in the tooth, and he's prone to making silly mistakes. And with a guy like Kron and his jiu-jitsu, he'd be the guy that would go down with him in his guard and then make a mistake. Like,
and to be fair, he almost did for a period of time too. And I was like, Cub, what are you doing? Stop.
And then also, I know everything you said about the Diaz, gym is right. I hope they're not watching though.
We love you, Diaz brothers. I hope you know I'm the biggest fanboy of you. But please get another. Please get it all.
But will we not agree as that fight was going on and Kron showed a level of Gracie toughness I haven't seen in striking? Like, Gracies are not known to just get in there, keep going forward, or like a Diaz brother. Cub started wilting and he looked like he was getting tired. And I was like, he's probably should win, but if he got a little tired, and they even mentioned it on the broadcast, you make a mistake, you get a little tired. I think it was a Troy Whitman mention. You make a mistake, get tired, and he's already a guy who makes mistakes. And then plus also, I think, Kron was the favorite, not a big favorite, I believe, in the betting lines, but he was even the favorite. So a lot of people thought probably saw, damn, yeah, Kron doesn't have the experience, but this guy Cub, man,
but
in these big fights, he sometimes gets silly, and but everything you said is true. Kron should have lost. He did lose, but it was an admirable job.
Yeah, this shouldn't have been a question for debate at all. Because if you put their skill sets down on paper, Kron Gracie is not a mixed martial artist.
No.
He is an incredible jiu-jitsu player. He's an amazing athlete with incredible cardio and an insane willpower and a little nutty in the brain. But he is not a mixed martial artist. When you're plodding forward with some of the worst footwork this side of early Khabib Nurmagomedov, like, and you have that weird Gracie like foot stomp thing.
That's from the 90s.
Yeah, like the UFC 1
from 1993. This motherfucker's still using the same exact technique.
Early elliptical kick. It's early, It's elliptical kick evolution right there.
So Matt, you are right. You are right. Cub Swanson should be the guy who wins this fight. But if we're talking about the Cub Swanson that just lost to Shane Burgos, we're talking about a guy who's.
But that's Shane Burgos. Are we acting like Shane Burgos isn't a way more complete fighter than Kron Gracie?
Shane Burgos. No, this is what I'm saying. Because Shane Burgos represented, I think, a key turn in Cub Swanson's downturn. Because before then, it was Frankie Edgar, it was Hanato Moicano, it was Brian Ortega. It was the elite of the featherweight division. And Shane Burgos, while he is a guy on the rise, he is not elite yet.
Look,
so when Cub Swanson loses to him and loses to him in striking exchanges, where Cub Swanson was thriving, where he was a sparring partner for Tim Bradley for
but
God's
it's
sake.
Shane Burgos. You do realize Shane Burgos trains with boxers in the New Jersey Tri-State area all the time. I have personally seen him spar Marcus Brown, for God's sake.
Well, congratulations.
Okay, Shane Burgos is a good boxer.
No, he is, but he's still not the elite of featherweight division just yet. Like that shows some sort of downturn in who Cub Swanson is, and is also still a knucklehead. He is still the guy that's going to engage.
I'm not disputing the downturn in Cub Swanson's career. There's no disputing that. But what I am disputing is you thinking that Shane Burgos, him losing Shane Burgos, is then equivalent to then I can pick Kron Gracie to beat him. Take away Kron Gracie's name, who is he? He wasn't the best jiu-jitsu player at the time when he was even doing it. We've seen how many BJJ guys come to MMA and fail and look bad, a la AJ Agrazam in Bellator right now. So I don't like. The only reason Kron Gracie was a favorite because of his name. Like, let's just be 100% honest about it. That's it.
I'm not going to disagree with that.
Because you put AJ Agrazam against Cub Swanson or any of these other guys, then yeah, he's going to look just like fucking Kron Gracie in this fight. You put any of these top-level BJJ guys that have 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 fights in MMA that are not experienced, have no striking, yeah, they're going to press a old Cub Swanson, but Cub Swanson's still going to style on them and win. Like, that's just how it's going to be. Because not only, and I want to make this point because Jason said something too. Something about experience, and like I just want to make this point. It's not just experience being the disadvantage here. It is the vast technical disadvantage here. And when those two things are combined, you can't pick someone that has a technical disadvantage and an experience disadvantage. It's almost impossible to pick that person to win.
You know what's crazy though is you're right, but Jesus, this guy was getting hit by Kron Gracie. He got lumped up by him for a guy that has no real high level striking. Yeah. Again, like this is why Swanson as an underdog made some sense because he was getting lumped up by Kron Gracie.
Yeah,
Kron
Gracie has the worst jab I've ever seen in MMA. The worst jab of all time, and he was hitting Cub with it. Like
that's not the worst jab in MMA. That's not the worst jab in MMA. No.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm sure you've broken it down.
There's some bad ones out there, man. Look at the heavyweight division.
Yeah, but Kron's was trash. Okay, his jab was.
Kron just had no speed. Like that's the thing. Kron was just technique. So slow.
Yeah, the technique would help the speed. I would imagine.
Well, you can be untechnical, but if you're fast, it makes up for it.
Of striking training like that. So, but Matt, I am in full agreement with you that it is illogical to pick Kron Gracie against an experienced mixed martial artist who has the background of Cub Swanson. I'm just saying that Cub Swanson has looked so much on the downturn lately, and where he messes up a lot of times is his fight IQ, where he goes into places where he doesn't need to be. And if you go into a place where you don't need to be against a jiu-jitsu guy as dangerous as Kron Gracie, you can find yourself tapping out.
But I will say this again. All of his other losses recently have been guys that are exponentially better than fucking Kron Gracie.
Also, I'll add and agree with Matt 1,000%. Shane Burgos is very good, especially since I'm going to be seeing him tomorrow. So he's amazing.
He has a great last name, by the way.
He does. My MMA brother, Shane. I'll see you tomorrow, Shane.
But yeah, but shout out to Shane Burgos. There's I really think he's a guy on the rise. But for Cub Swanson to lose to a guy on the rise as opposed to a guy who's already at the top shows, a screw has been turning in his career. So, all right. Cole, saying in chat, to be fair, 4 of the last 6 losses Swanson has by submission, so he gets caught often. Good point there.
But
Rob Iman,
he has a sub weakness. That's too.
Let me tell y'all something about Rob Iman, who always jumps on the chat and the walk of shame. Who's always
is he like your Europe one?
Yeah, he's on Europe 1 status for the walk of
Maybe
shame.
he is Europe 1.
Oh, that's Europe 1's real name. We found you out, Europe.
But he's so Rob is always trying to cut everybody. Everybody who loses, he's trying to cut them. So he's
remember Rob
saved his job tonight.
Wow.
Remember Rob, you can call in too if you don't want to just post a bunch of things in the chat. 323-870-4051. Cole, if you want to call in, Skype as well.
Oh yeah, Cole, call in.
Tommaso, Mark, international listeners, Skype Mix Combat Radio. It's my other show, but that's the Skype line. You can call in via that. And again, 323-870-4051. If you want that number, it's below in the description.
Oh, you got the overlay with the description? Oh,
no, it's not the overlay. It's below in the video description.
Oh, okay. You old producer motherfucker.
I know. I try.
See, I don't even know what it looks like. You just produce. That's what's up. All right, Tommaso Mark saying Cub looked good, but the Cub from 2 years ago would have picked up the pace and probably finished Kron in the third. It's clear he is on a physical decline. So is Club still a top 15 fighter or no? Final verdict. I say no.
I need to look at the top 15. I don't know.
I'm just, you know what?
Off the top of my head, I don't know. Maybe. He's probably borderline at this point in time.
I'm not even sure if Cub believes he is anymore. Cub cried at the end of that. He was so happy he won. So I don't even think he thinks he is anymore.
He's out of the top 15 as of right now. And then you look at some of the names on here. So Arnold Allen, a lot of
rising stars in that group.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Arnold Allen at 15, who just had his win over Gilbert Melendez. Arnold Allen, I think handles Cub Swanson at this stage. Ryan Hall, the most improbable guy in the top 15, who probably would have been better suited for this Kron Gracie fight.
Oh my God! Please, can we get Ryan Hall, Kron Gracie? For the love of God, please.
Like likable guy versus unlikable guy.
But Ryan Hall destroys him on the feet.
Oh my God! Yes.
Yeah.
He's going to throw so many kicks.
That might just be a brawl. They won't even get to jiu-jitsu. It'll be like the cancel out factor.
No, you know how many Imanari rolls? Fucking
it's gonna be switch kick to knee tap, takedown combos like you've never seen. The most illogical stuff.
They're gonna be trading knee bars. It's gonna be great. Cannot wait.
Yeah, man. So everyone else that I'm seeing, like Calvin Cater.
That's another good one. Him and Magomed Shapiro. Oh man, I can't wait for that fight.
Josh Emmett at 10. Like, no, Cub Swanson is not a top 15 guy anymore. But Rob's probably right. He probably did save his job. But even still, I don't think with the loss there, I think he's so much of a name that they would have kept him just to keep him out of Bellator.
Plus, he sells tickets in like the southwestern U.S. You know, he sells tickets in L.A., Phoenix, Albuquerque. Like he sells tickets in like a lot of different cities.
Yeah, so good points there. So yeah, I think Cub Swanson would have maintained his employment status regardless. All right, let's move on.
And quickly, even if he didn't, Bellator or One would easily take him in. I think those would be good options for him as well.
Yeah. All right, so let's talk about now what is kind of snuck up as a KO of the year candidate, Nico Price. does away with James Vick with an unceremonious debut at welterweight. What the hell did we just see?
Amazing, something amazing, guys. And like, I'm not the biggest James Vick fan, but even beside that point, that knockout is amazing. Any sort of up kick knockouts are always fantastic because you always get that great sound because of the heel hitting the chin almost every time. Every time that body drops from the up kick knockout, it always looks cinematic, let's say. And plus, I mean, the running joke of James Vick getting knocked out is still running, and I'm fully on board with making jokes about that.
Oh, yeah, James Vick not getting a lot of love on the social media.
Man, poor guy.
Yeah, didn't help that because I thought he left Team Lloyd Irving. I know he was training at some other camp, but Lloyd Irving was in his corner, and whenever James Vick fights, there's always the fuck Lloyd Irving hashtag that populates my timeline. So. So Jason, any thoughts about James Vick? Does he have a future at either lightweight or welterweight?
I don't know. I saw some stuff mentioned like the days leading up that maybe his job may be on the line. I think he even said that. Yeah, I think he mentioned that he felt like his job might be on the line with the loss. So I don't know. And what's crazy too is it wasn't even like your typical up kick, say like the Jacare Musasi kind of. It was like almost like a heel hammer. Like his feet were here and it just smacked him dead on the chin. So I mean, just tough luck. I mean, he's. Oh, man, I don't know. I mean, he's a good fighter. He's a guy that's active. I guess you would say exciting firefighter. You'd be happy to watch, but I'd be surprised if they let him go. I really wouldn't. I think, if I was them too, he's getting knocked out too much. So I wouldn't always want to keep a fighter like that. That's starting to have trouble with chin issues and all those kind of brain danger issues.
Yes, I agree. And on top of it, just because the narrative is really about James Vick after this, obviously because he was a bigger name. But Nico Price, credit to him, man. He's always been one of those guys that's been all-action fighter, always been fun. He's been knocked out a couple times as well in his career. And just credit to him for the way he handled the knockout when he realized Vick was, hurt. Credit to him. And just that reminds me, for anyone listening, send some prayers out to Patrick Day. He's a boxer. He is currently in a coma having surgery right now, and he was on the Usyk card. So just one of those days where I was noticeably more concerned about people's health, and it was awesome to see Nico Price do that and just be also concerned for his opponent's health.
Yeah, definitely fighter safety and health will be coming up very shortly on this show about a fight on the card, and I think I don't think that's going to need much of an introduction when the time comes. But so back to Nico Price, man. Like this guy seems to just create these completely remarkable scenes that you can't really duplicate. I mean, I had flashbacks to the knockout over Danny Brown where he kind of had him. He was on his back and kind of had his head trapped with his shin, and he's just hammer fisting up. Like this is one of those improbable things that you're just never going to see again. Like what's up with Nico Price? Like this in like almost like embracing the chaos and somehow finding a way to win.
I mean, he's one of those guys in this division right now that's sort of like a Vicente Luque, Mike Perry, like that's that borderline top 15-ish guy, and all of them are fun. Like all of them, like just relish in the chaos, as you say. They love violence, and they're all around really good fighters. So, I mean, welterweight's this really fantastic division that people I think are sleeping on because those top 20-ish guys are putting in fantastic fights. Like Vicente Luque, Brian Barberena was this year, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That was one of the best fights of the year, and people forget about it. But this division has some really sleeper talent, and Nico Price is one of those guys easily.
Let me also add on to Matt's point about just Nico Price being an exciting fighter. I'm just going to go through his results for his careers. Now, of course, we have a KO tonight, but after that, TKO. Now, these are wins and losses mixed in, but I'm just going to go through TKO, KO, submission, TKO, a no contest, submission, decision, TKO, TKO, submission. if there's not a more fun guy to watch, you're gonna get something wild, and you're gonna get a definitive result when you watch Nico Price.
Yeah, I think even more so than a guy like a fellow welterweight who's known to be an exciting fighter, a guy like Mike Perry. I think he embodies that kill or be killed mentality even more. Nico Price will either kill you or he will be carried out on his shield, and that's the only way he knows how to operate. So a lot of exciting things ahead, I'm sure, for him. Now let's see what else we got in the chat. Tommaso saying he'd like to see Nico Price versus Zaleski dos Santos.
Love that fight. Love that fight.
Sign me all the way up. I like that. I like that a lot. Tommaso's got a question for you, Matt. He asked, should Usyk face the winner of Joshua versus Ruiz?
Depends who wins the rematch. Because obviously, let's say if AJ wins the rematch, they're probably going to do a trilogy of that. Usyk's going to have to fight other guys. If that happens, which is probably going to happen, Usyk fighting Chisora, Joseph Parker, guys of sort of that caliber would make a lot of sense.
All right. Oh, nice, succinct answer from the hipster, the boxing expert, who I think is grossly underutilized on our beloved SureDog.com. So,
oh wait, we can say cut the check here.
We can say cut the check. Yes. This is my channel.
Cut them check, SureDog. Cut
the motherfucking check.
Crave, god damn it.
Toast to that.
I plead the fifth.
All right, so I guess we should talk about more fights. Now here's one, another one that we can mark in the upset column. Although I think there's good reason not to. Amanda Ribas or Hebus, she gets the decision over Mackenzie Dern. So I think the overall narrative for a lot of people in this fight was, okay, Mackenzie Dern is coming back from her long layoff after giving birth, and well, not long after she gave birth. It was only 4 months ago, but the previously undefeated jiu-jitsu ace was going to go ahead and just tap somebody else out that the UFC threw in front of her. Not quite. So, Jason, give me some quick thoughts. Like what went wrong for Mackenzie Dern in this fight?
I actually had a feeling this might happen. Even SureDog got my picks wrong, but I picked Ribas in the email. But
I'm sure you did.
I have proof. I could show you.
Oh yeah, yeah. Fake news.
Fake news. It's fake news.
You know what? Next night, Giuliani's going to be on Fox News with an iPad pointing out the text messages about the picks from Jason. So,
he's a very verifiable source. He's a good source. I mean, he works for the president. You if you work for the president, you're top dogs, right?
See Ducey, it's the State Department. It's Crave Online. It's a conspiracy. It's a conspiracy.
But yeah, I mean, I actually thought Ribas would have a chance based on her. And I don't know a ton about it, but just looking at some of her stuff, and Mackenzie Dern just not far off from a crying Gracie type. Honestly, I know she got the knockout and the TKO in their last fight or whatever, but I don't think we should have been sold like, oh man, she's a well-rounded threat from everywhere. She's got striking now. It was a good shot. She loaded up and landed the big hook on somebody and knocked him out. But I felt that there was weaknesses. Ribas had a much better striking game. The question was if she can get taken down or not. And I don't think Dern pushed hard enough for takedown for him, which was a little surprising. Agreed. She chose to strike. And what happens with a lot of grapplers, you get a knockout and you all of a sudden start probably falling in love with, this newfound striking ability I have, and kind of lose sight of what is your bread and butter. I think she lost sight. Ribas was a better striker, smart fighter, good camp, and she beat her and pretty fairly soundly. Like, Dern didn't do very much in that fight.
Yeah, and one other thing too about that, the grappler falling in love with their striking, it's especially harmful when you fall in love with one strike.
Yeah.
When you figure out, I've got power in my right hand, so I'm just going to constantly throw this right hand, and that's going to solve all my problems. Because Dern appeared to me to be the more powerful striker. She seemed to be the one that had the heavier shot, but Amanda was actually mixing up with different punches. She wasn't just spamming that right hand.
And it's not just that. Like, I mean, I don't know where to begin with this fight and just all of Mackenzie Dern's training videos leading up to this when it comes to mitt work and such. Very Ronda Rousey-esque. when she was making that transition. Oh, I'm now this boxer. I'm on the Ring magazine. It was very reminiscent of that in a way, obviously to a lesser degree. But, I mean, she made just basic mistakes. Like, for one, whenever she would throw a strike, she would never bring it back. Like, that's like striking 101. When you throw a jab or right hand, bring the shot back to defend yourself. She wouldn't do that. She would leave her hands out there. That's just boxing 101. And every time she would miss, let me rephrase it. She would not, her eyes were not tracking her opponent. Her eyes were tracking her shots. So if her shots landed, she would still be looking at her opponent and able to land more shots and be in a position to be effective. But she wasn't landing. So the problem was when she would miss a shot, she was following the shot, not her opponent. And so that's why every time she missed that 1-2, and Reba just like pulled back and then fired back the pullback right hand counter, she was not ready for it and she wasn't looking at it. Why? Because she was tracking her shot and not her opponent. And it's a really simple mistake that a lot of basic sort of strikers do, or people that are transitioning into striking do. But clearly, like, you should not be fighting right now. I think you should be doing like a good 6 to 9 months of just training and just focusing on training. I think a 4-month comeback from a pregnancy was far too quick to adapt to your skills to your game, Mackenzie Dern. Add in the 9 months where you're probably not training as much as you were before. You lost time to develop. And then you try to be this striker that you're not and clearly are not developed to do that. Go back to the drawing board. Maybe get a better striking coach, because those things they're teaching you in the gym that we are seeing in your training videos you're posting online are not proper boxing techniques, not proper boxing drills. So clearly you're getting just bad coaching. I would heavily advise that you just change camps and find a real boxing coach, a real kickboxing coach even, and work on your game and craft, because it needs a lot of work.
Well, see, the issue with Mackenzie Dern has always been her commitment to the sport. And that's been the overall narrative, hence her consistent weight issues, which surprisingly didn't creep up this time. You think of all times for her to have weight issues would be her fighting at straw weight 4 months after giving birth. But anyway, I think the problem with Mackenzie Dern has always been this commitment to the sport. Like, she trains in the Los Angeles area just because she wants to go to the beach. From what I understand, and it's not like, okay, I'm gonna go someplace where I blend well with these coaches and with this team, and they're gonna develop my mixed martial arts game to be the best that it possibly can be. Without that mentality, it's like I just want to hang out. There was I can't remember the name of this camp, but there was a gym. I'm sure if you're in the chat right now, just go ahead and tell me what camp it is before I make an ass of myself. But there was a camp that kicked her out essentially because she didn't want to train enough.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, so
and was it in a major gym too?
I believe so.
Yeah, was it maybe somewhere in Arizona or something like that?
The MMA lab, maybe.
Yeah, I think it was like Arizona, which is the lab.
It was the lab. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, it was MMA lab. Yeah. So like this shows a serious shows two things. One, it shows like you got to be fully invested in this sport, and two, you can't get by on a single skill. This was kind of Kron Gracie caffeine-free version or something. When looking at the way this fight played out, this was a jiu-jitsu player who only had jiu-jitsu in a right hand, trying to get their jiu-jitsu and their right hand to operate while the other fighter was doing everything else. Is that a fair assessment, gentlemen?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And again, like, she is super green. She clearly needs a lot of work. The hype that she received coming into the sport, I think, was a little bit undeserved. And then again, that's just how this sport runs. Like, we really do hype up a lot of BJJ players that enter into the MMA scene, as expected. But I think we should know by now that a lot of these high-level BJJ players are not going to transition well to MMA. We just don't. I don't think BJJ is as good of a base to enter MMA as, let's say, wrestling or kickboxing or Muay Thai even, There's clear issues with that transition for some reason. I'm not well-versed enough in BJJ to probably make that assessment as to why there is that issue with that transition, but clearly there is.
Yeah, I mean, something's awry. That's for sure.
I feel like it's takedowns, and I think that's why Damian Maia, got to a second title shot in welterweight, because he adjusted his game to implement much more wrestling to go along with it, and that's what Naaman Gracie does too. Naaman Gracie actually went to the same wrestling coach Damian Maia went to. I think that's why Naaman has come along a little faster, and his striking's gotten better, solid stuff like that. But if you want to go with that pure jiu-jitsu, stuff, yeah, I agree with 1,000%, man. It's not likely, because also, like, if you're a wrestlers, because of all that work they do, they're just naturally strong in their hips and their arms, and you find more wrestlers that come in with pop. You don't find jiu-jitsu guys that really come in with pop. If you're going to come from Brazil, honestly, you're probably better off if you come in with like a high-level Muay Thai skill set than even jiu-jitsu at this point, which is crazy because that's the home of jiu-jitsu. But, I agree.
Yeah, it's very good point there. I mean, and even bringing back up the Kron Gracie Cub Swanson fight, like if you add just the slightest bit of pure wrestling to the games of Kron Gracie and Mackenzie Dern, you're looking at something extraordinarily dangerous. And it wouldn't even have to be that complex of a wrestling game. It could seriously just be a decent single leg, a decent power double, and maybe some sort of trips against the fence. You probably wouldn't need much more than that to add a lot of longevity to their careers.
Agreed. And to the point that Jason made about Brazil, like if you think about like the current generation of like Brazilian prospects or Brazilian sort of guys coming into the elite status, a lot of them they do have grappling backgrounds or they have good grappling bases, but predominantly they're strikers.
Yep.
Johnny Walker. Polo Bojina Costa, Renato Moricano, Marlon Moraes. You sort of go down the list. A lot of them are more of the Jose Aldo vein of Brazilian fighters.
Anderson Silva effect.
And it is. I would really like to talk to maybe a Brazilian reporter that's more down there to get their gauge on the scene as to why this seems to be a massive issue, because it shouldn't be when BJJ was one of the foundational martial arts of the sport, and it seems like it has not evolved with the sport as the other disciplines have.
You know what I think? I feel, and again, this is spitball, and this is just from watching the sport, talking to people. I feel like jiu-jitsu, there's almost a hard-headed pride about it. Yes, because even you have Nate Diaz and Nick Diaz, Gracie Jiu-Jitsu, and I respect that, but there's this belief, and you don't really see it in the other arts with wrestling and everything like that, that this is such a dominant art. This is ours. This is the pride of our country, the pride of our culture, that it is the best. It is more than enough. That you still get that to this day, that it's even more. Like, for example, I talked to Goichi Yamauchi. That article is going to come up, I'm sure, soon. He thinks he's the best grappler in MMA, and he's got a decent point. Maybe he's got a case. He's got the record for submissions in Bellator. He said to me, I'm the best because of my jiu-jitsu. It's pure jiu-jitsu, like Gracie jiu-jitsu. It's not MMA jiu-jitsu, which kind of blew my mind. Like, because he is a good MMA fighter, the fact that he said that pride of jiu-jitsu. So because of that pride, they're not as willing to evolve.
Yes.
And that holds them up all the time.
I agree.
Yeah, totally agree. Like, actually, training, now I train at a place that's like Gracie affiliated, I can say, and you see that culture seeping into the mentality of the way things are taught, or the credibility or I guess respect given to different systems and whatnot. That's kind of like a Gracie thing, that it's all about what they do. So I think if anything tonight, it showed that the sport of mixed martial arts is different than it was in 1993. That should be a very easy lesson to walk away with.
And a quick sort of, I think, historical context to these martial arts, maybe that might shed some light on why this is. BJJ is relatively a very young martial art, right? I mean, it's only about 100 years old in all sense.
It's probably more like 60, because what's this guy?
Helio.
Helio was like 50s, right?
Was it the 50s? Okay. So let's say 60, 70 years old. While boxing, you can literally go back to the Olympics 3,000 years ago. You can go to wrestling 3,000 years ago. There are certain karate, taekwondo, like they have thousands of years of history. And on top of that, there are far more of international martial arts. BJJ started in one place with one family 70 years ago.
Yeah.
And so the evolution of it is very young relative to other martial arts.
It's gone fast though.
Yes,
it's spread
absolutely.
because the Gracies are great entrepreneurs.
That's
So
true.
it spread super fast.
Yeah, definitely. They sure did turn it into a cash cow.
Yeah, it's just in
Hey,
Abu Dhabi. Like what?
there is not a Gracie right now who's wondering where the rent check is coming from. so let's be clear on that. All right, so let's move on here. We've got a split decision win for Matt Frivola over Luis Violent Bob Ross Pena. I, for one, had this score for Luis Pena.
Agreed.
I was not with these scorecards. How did you not give a 10-8 round in the second to Pena?
And on top of it, hold on. And when you heard the last judge's name was Tony Weeks, tell me you did not instantly go, oh, the other guy's winning it. It's not Pena.
The guy who was winning all the striking exchanges. Oh, he's got it. But
no. And look, I do think it's a close fight. Like, I don't think it's one that is it's a robbery. But I think Luis Pena won that. I think he clearly was the better striker. I think he clearly was the better fighter. I think Frivola really wasn't efficient. He wasn't landing shots, really. The pressure wasn't efficient at all. I don't know what the judges were thinking when they were giving those rounds. Maybe they thought the punches were landing when you're throwing those long left hands and right hooks. Maybe
I didn't think those punches were landing.
They weren't landing.
Yeah, it's like
but maybe they thought
it back, and he's negating all the power on him. I thought he barely got touched in that fight. So maybe just a big hit of hair was throwing him off or something, but it wasn't. It had to have been something more with the judges' optics but even the commentary team. Well, I mean, granted, they have similar seats to the judges, so it would make sense that they would kind of be in alignment with the judges.
Yeah, but they have monitors. They have monitors. Yeah. That's different. The judges don't have monitors, so that there's a difference there. But I mean, I think if you go back and watch that fight, you can make a legit argument. Pena won almost every round. Honestly, like he was just. He wasn't getting hit, and you can't score a round for a guy that's not landing shots. He might be throwing shots, but he's not landing them.
Yeah, that was like Leonard Garcia judging.
Yes,
to me, that's what that looked like, and not as bad as Leonard Garcia because that is some of the worst judging I've ever seen in my life. Every time he stepped in the cage, another story there. But as a side note, check out the YouTube channel Blunt Force Trauma, a series about fighters smoking weed and how the effects of cannabis help them throughout their training. The first episode just went live this past week featuring one Violent Bob Ross. So check that out. Yours truly was the editor of this project. So flexing my editing skills and whatnot.
They're selling y'all wolf tickets, people. You're eating them right up.
So a little bit of hating from the producer.
I had to find a DS for the soundbite because weed, stoner.
Oh, okay. I thought you just found some hating words.
No, but I mean it did work for that way too, obviously. But like the other one,
you're a real hater.
I mean,
right?
would this make more sense?
Everybody's on steroids.
No,
the whole everybody.
No,
everybody's on CBD.
A Diaz fanboy. You've got
if Cole can't be on the show, then I gotta hate on you a little bit.
Well, I mean, both of y'all hate on me. Like all three of y'all hate on me. Shit.
I mean, but you hate on everybody too. So
that is true. I hate on everybody. I am an expert hater.
Yeah, I don't send random Facebook posts just to hate. You do.
I do harass you on Facebook with random hating posts, and I do have the hashtag unnecessary hating as well to accompany this harassment. So Matt, I gotta find you on Facebook, by the way.
I don't have Facebook. Shout out to the UFC who deleted my Facebook due to copyright.
Whoa!
Because I shared videos on Instagram. I just hit the repost thing, the repost app, right?
Yeah.
And then obviously it goes to Facebook too. And so I had my Instagram and Facebook accounts deleted, and I cannot make a new Facebook account. I've tried; they won't let me.
Wow.
Oh, will you get a different email address?
They won't. I think they have my IP address like locked down. They're like, nope, fuck this guy.
Shit, you need to go to like Starbucks.
And you know what? I'll be honest. I'm okay with it. Facebook sucks.
I mean, I just want you on Facebook so I can harass you there. That's
you can harass me.
I wanted for that.
You can harass me at Matt Hunter MCR all social media platforms other than Facebook.
Okay.
Even Snapchat.
Oh, You use Snapchat?
I really don't. No, I really don't. It's there though.
Snapchat is trash.
It's on the phone. Don't go on it.
Yeah. All right. So I guess we should start talking about fights again. Eric Anders lost a split decision to Gerald Marshart. I wasn't feeling the judging on this one. I wasn't too mad at it. I had it for Gerald Marshart, but I'm not mad at it the other way.
I wasn't feeling this fight. To be honest, this fight was bad. This fight was rough. The second Eric Anders was seemingly hurt. Like there's something wrong with him. Either it was a cardio issue or maybe he had bruised ribs. Something was apparently wrong. His performance dipped drastically in terms of just output and just ability. And his opponent wasn't anything to write home about. So I thought this fight was a rather poor showing for both men, to be honest.
Oh, yeah. I wouldn't say it was necessarily a poor showing, at least for Marshart. Anders is kind of what I expect. I don't expect Eric Anders to do a whole lot other than be athletic. That's kind of what he does.
Eric Anders is like the poor man's OSP.
Exactly what I was about to say. Like that's the same comparison I made on the round table for between rounds this week about this card was like this was that like Eric Anders is like OSP with a little bit more fundamentals. You know, just all this athleticism, no development, and he's still strong and can hit you hard.
Yeah, but he can't pull off a Von Flue choke out of nowhere any day he wants.
That is true.
And have a mean roundhouse kick. He doesn't have those things. Like OSP is still the best.
But he actually has like some sort of like reasonable combinations that he throws. Like I still like it still makes some form of fundamental sense with Eric Anders does, but it just doesn't evolve. OSP is still like, and I keep saying it's the same like jumping front kick to jab combination that he does, which is like the silliest thing I've ever seen in my life that he just never gets away from.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that's all. That's all I'm saying. Tommaso actually in the chat saying, do you think Eric Anders' cardio was compromised from his weight cut since he rehydrates to around 227?
Could be.
I mean, the only thing is maybe the back and forth between weight classes because he's alternated 185 and 205 pound fights.
I asked him about that too. Yeah. I mean, I asked him why he prefers middleweight, and he said the weight cut for him is really not that hard. But I said, is there any concern from you and your coaches about the fluctuation going up and down? And he wasn't, which I was a little surprised about. But maybe, I think fighters also, even if they felt that way, they're not going to tell people anyway. That's why every fighter is the best they've ever felt before every other fight. And then afterwards, like, oh yeah, I had some stuff. So.
Yeah, it's like, it was the best training camp of my life. And then after the fight, my arm was falling off.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah. Let's see here. What else we got? Cole saying, Ant, do you and Matt have a countdown for KSI, Logan Paul 2? That is the best fight this year.
Okay, now I'm with Ant. Fuck you, Cole.
Wow.
Oh, Cole, I trust you to be you.
How dare you bring up that thing that's automatically rising my blood pressure right now?
We will be at that fight. We'll be covering that fight. So expect some sort of fuckery on SureDoc.com and Mixed Combat Radio. Oscar Willis will also be joining us there.
Oh, Oscar's there? Oh, now I gotta go, actually. Damn it, man. If Oscar's going, I got to.
So expect the combination of MCR, SureDog, and Mac Life to completely burn down everything you know as combat sports. All right. Mike S. Adding in the chat that that Abraham Kawa and Ali Abdelaziz should be added to the undercard.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
Okay. Awesome. Now I'm back on with this topic. I accept this topic now. I'll buy it. Yeah. The Zone, take my $20 a month.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm buying that one too. All right, so now let's go ahead and I don't know. Do I actually no? The rest are prelims. I don't really want to talk about too many of the prelims, but I'll mention a couple. If any of them stand on your mind, we'll go ahead and mention them as well. But we got to talk about the absolutely disgusting job of so-called officiating. Mike Davis knocked out Thomas Gifford at with the last 15 seconds of the fight. A devastating faceplant KO that didn't have to happen. What was it? What's the ref's name again?
Dumbass.
Yeah, fuck him.
I'll be honest. I have not seen the fight.
Oh,
I have not seen it
probably
yet.
better off with that.
I'll tell you what. When you see this fight, and especially about what happened to the fighter on the Usyk undercard, it'll ring real painful to watch.
You know what? I will say the refs got to take a bunch of heat, but honestly, I'm more surprised by Mark Montoya. Mark Montoya is one of the elite coaches in this sport, has a whole bunch of fighters. He has to have the sense to say this enough is enough too. And even Bisping brought it up from the second, in between the second and third. He asked him, "How are you feeling?" The guy said terrible. It's like, "Can you continue?" He's like, "Yeah, of course." He's telling he's feeling terrible. He's looking terrible. He's taking shots that are going to change his life trajectory, forget his career trajectory. You got to step in. And Trevor Whitman was making a great point, because Trevor Whitman's another great coach from the same area. And he was like, you have to save your fight for yourself. Because in the end, everybody's not going to be champion. So it's about making as much money as you can. So you're fucking with somebody's money-making potential by hurting them and shortening their career. Like, he's losing. He's not going to, come on. Don't have that fear that, oh, he's my guy. I think he can come back and get it. He's losing. Fight another day and rebuild. Do not ruin this guy. And the fact that it had to end on a nasty face plan, like, oh my God, just horrific stuff.
I think that one of the unfortunate things MMA coaching culture that has not caught up with everywhere else in combat sports is the idea, let's just save this guy for another day. Like, there's no point. He's not going to win this fight. He had his chance for the first couple rounds, the first round or two or whatever. He's not going to win. We're done. We're good. And that be a socially acceptable thing in the sport. In boxing, it is, thank God. Kickboxing, it is, thank God. Muay Thai, it is, thank God. MMA, it's not yet, for some reason. And I'm really confused as why this has not become a norm.
Well, Matt, you tell me, because you have a much more in-depth boxing knowledge. I followed it more when I was younger, but are there, because you haven't, I feel like in MMA, you have these crazy, like the Scott Smith, oh, I'm hurt to the body, right hook knockouts, like these unbelievably shocking. Do you have that in boxing? Maybe that's why it doesn't happen as much in boxing, so it happens in MMA, so everybody thinks they're going to be bad.
Allow me to interject if you don't mind.
I do mind, but okay, go. Okay, go. It's your show. It's your show. I'm okay.
You're producing, so you can cut my mic if you wanted to.
I can. Ooh.
Don't cut the check, cut the mic.
Well, as far as
that was a bar.
That was definitely a bar right there. I'm doing a song featuring Captain Credential. All right. So like I think that one thing for sure we can say that 9 times out of 10 in combat sports, the person who's supposed to win is going to win. But in boxing, it's even more so. MMA, it happens 9 out of 10 times. In boxing, it happens 99.9% of the time. The better boxer will win. So you don't have but so many of those like sudden one-shot comebacks. Like the only one, it wasn't a one-shot comeback, but the one that I can think of was Diego Corrales. Who was it that he got knocked down like twice?
You mean like the Castillo fight, right?
Yeah.
That's like 2006, man. You're going way back in the day.
Yeah, that's the one fight I can think of that kind of fits in that sort of narrative of like, oh, this sudden comeback.
A lot of John Leon Jr.'s fights recently have been like that. He's made a career of that. But no, I wouldn't say that's really the purveying factor per se. I think it's more of the fight duration. Like in boxing, it's a 36-minute title fight. That's 11 more minutes than a men's or women's title fight in MMA. That's an extreme difference in terms of brain damage and brain punishment that you're taking. And I think that when you're at round 7 in a boxing fight and there's 5 more rounds to go, they're more likely to go, we're good here. While in MMA, if you're having 1, 2, or basically just 3-round fights, right, and you go through the first and second round, you're thinking there's only 1 round left. Like, maybe this is the shot. Maybe this is the last round he pulls it in. And I think that is actually part of the reason as to why MMA coaches are less likely to pull their fighters in that 3rd round in a 3-round fight. Because they're thinking, it's only a 3-round fight. We can get through this. And in boxing, thinking, this is a 12-round fight. This is a 10-round fight. We don't need to keep doing this. There's a lot more fight left. And in MMA, there's not that mentality, in my opinion, because of the fight duration.
All right, look at the wise words from Mr. Hunter.
Because think about like a usual MMA fight's 15 minutes, right? That's a 6 minute. I mean, that's a 6-rounder in boxing. That's nothing. Those are for guys that are just starting their pro career.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that's the norm for even top 10, top 5 level MMA. You know, so I think there's that hesitation because, like you sort of said about like fighters' careers, if you pull this guy out, you could jeopardize his career and earning potential long term, especially with how the UFC treats their independent contractors. So I'm not surprised that this culture has not evolved because the industry doesn't really create an environment for that to be on the mindset in any way.
All right, definitely. So now,
and quickly, we do have a caller, by the way. So whenever everyone gets
we got a caller. Let's jump him in.
Let's go out to Rob Iman on the Skype machine. Rob,
hello. How are you guys doing tonight?
Good. Hey, what's up?
Hey. All right, Mike. I've got a few things. I wonder with Mackenzie Dern. I wonder if she's a better fit at 125.
I don't know why she's not there already.
Yeah, that seems to be the most sensible thing. 125 is a desolate division, and on top of that, she won't have the weight struggles. It'll be, and her camps could be more focused on her skills developing as opposed to making the weight. So I don't see what the downside is at all.
Yeah, I think that is half the issue. You're not of her right now. She's not being able to cut weight is a big issue.
Agreed. Definitely agreed. So I'm curious as to what they do with her on her next one. I believe I'm seeing somewhere in the chat where you were saying that that they need to give you a debutante next.
Yeah, and I think that's what needs to happen. A newcomer.
Yeah, it sounds right to me because they tried to give her as new of a person they could with a UFC fight under their belt in Amanda Ribas. So that obviously didn't go well. I mean, maybe you match her up against the Heather Hardy equivalent, someone with tremendous striking that has literally no ground game, and you match her up to get an easy win or something like that. But I don't really think that. Yeah, Mackenzie Dern belongs at flyweight. So
yeah, that's one thing I've got. And then also I do think for James Vick, I think he needs to really take a long break from fighting and take a focus on his health.
Big time. James Vick should not. I don't think he should even be thinking about booking himself in a fight until next summer.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Yeah, because every time we see James Vick lose, it's not that it's a TKO and he's covering up, he's turtled up, and he's not really doing anything, so the ref stops it. It's that he gets annihilated to where his brain short circuits. With the Gaethje fight, the obviously what happened tonight. Who else just knocked him out? Dan Hooker. Like Dan every Hooker, time. Yeah. Yeah, when James Vick goes down, it is ugly, it is nasty, and at this point, I think we were concerned about him depleting himself too much to make 155, and that being the cause of his chin issues. Then the counter to that was, okay, he's fighting guys who just hit really hard, like anybody's going to get knocked out by Justin Gaethje. But now when you have that in, you've mixed that in, and now he's rehydrated. He's at 170 and he's still getting knocked out. He's still taking those massive ass bombs. Now everything is kind of played into the other. Now you have a definitive chin issue, and it's time for James Vick to have a seat and heal up before he even thinks about fighting. And I think a clean break from Team Lloyd Irving would be better suited for him as well.
Yes, do that now.
Maybe go build himself up in Bellator or something like that next year.
Yeah, see, you're always trying to cut people. I say let James Vick stay in the UFC. They're definitely, he's still an exciting guy. You can pair up with some other up and coming guys or gatekeepers or what have you, and you can create something interesting. Like this Nico Price fight was the perfect sort of action fight that you can use a guy like James Vick. So keep him. Don't go the Rob Iman, cut everybody who lost tonight. But I feel your point there.
Can Rob
Gifford's
confirm
one
that he is not Europe
that
one?
Gotta maybe go back to the regional circuit. That's my only other cut. Gifford.
Gifford, and now once again, we'll go back to this theme with Kron Gracie, with Mackenzie Dern. This is mixed martial arts. Gifford looked like a guy who only knew how to do jiu-jitsu. He looked like a guy who had literally nothing other to offer than an Eminari roll and some Hail Mary triangle.
And that wasn't even that good.
And that was, whoa. Like,
that looked like when you do it in the UFC game and you just completely miss.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. Now I don't know how much of that was. I don't know how much of that was that he was just getting the lights beaten out of him, and maybe that we're talking about a concussed version of Gifford who couldn't even spell his first name as he's going into those Eminari roles. So I'll give him the benefit of the doubt on that. But if that's the game you're coming with into the UFC, like, no, you might need to take a seat on the regional circuit and really develop a well-rounded game before you get that call from McMaynard again.
Yeah, well, yeah, go the route of Thomas Dalby. Nicholas Dalby.
Yeah, Nicholas Dalby.
That's a very, very good example. Thomas Dalby went back to Cage Warriors, got some good finishes, won a title, came back to the UFC to a very exciting return. So thank you, Rob. Anything else you want to add, my man?
And the referee in that fight, that was a big WTF on not stopping it earlier. That freaks me out.
Absolutely. That was scary. That was genuinely scary to see that man take that much punishment, to see his coaches not do anything, ask him some dumbass question in between rounds about whether he's okay, despite the fact that his brain was hanging out his fucking ears. And then the ref just sitting there with his thumb up his ass. That was pathetic. And shout out to the commission in Florida. It's rare that Florida gets any sort of positive coverage. But we should give a round of applause to the Florida Athletic Commission for making sure that clown was booted off the card. So there was no more Andrew Glenn on the card. I think he was supposed to be the ref in, I think, the Anders and Mershaw fight also. I think
when they announced that one, I'm trying to think. It was the Vic fight, I think.
Oh, the Vic fight. Okay, thank God he was pulled from the Vic fight, because Vic would probably still be on the ground taking shots right now, and he'd be standing over him like a fucking moron, waiting for Vic to fight back. So
I sense a classic rant, Anthony rant coming on.
It's the edibles hitting.
Was that an ant rant right there?
It was a clip of an ant rant.
It was a clip. It was a little ant rant,
little mini rant. You know,
a little mini, like a slider version of an ant rant.
Definitely. So Rob, thank you, man. Anything else you want to add before we move along?
I think everybody have a great night.
Thank you,
Rob. Is he Europe one or not?
No, he's not Europe one. This is Rob Hyman. Thank you, Rob, man.
Thank you, Rob.
Definitely appreciate your participation, and I hope to chat with you again soon, my man.
Yeah, he's gone now.
All right, cool. So
Europe.
We got a question from Whiskey Dragonfly in the chat, which bomb ass name.
Great name.
Especially as I sip my whiskey. It says Dern should have stayed on the regional circuit until she developed some rudimentary striking. Agreed. But when you see a girl who a lot of people think are pretty pull off the that crazy hybrid whatever submission it was she pulled, I think it was an LFA.
Yes.
And that gets you in the UFC.
And also, I mean, 2 points. One, and that's just the unfortunate weirdness of women's MMA, especially at the UFC level. I mean, honestly, Bellator does that shit too. It's the pretty factor that girls get jumped up higher than they should and good put in positions because their looks. But also, I mean, he's saying that she should go back to the regional circuit. She was at fucking LFA. LFA is like one of the highest levels of the regional circuit. She was there winning. Where else do you go? I mean, and I get it on that point. It's an excellent point. And not everybody can be Israel Adesanya that says, I need to work it and be better for the UFC run. When the UFC calls, who's going to say no,
Of course, like you'd be a fool to not take that opportunity.
Yeah.
Unless they're offering you some garbage pay, which they probably are. But
the trick is quickly, just if you're in that position and you have to sort of say yes to the UFC, who knows if they're going to call again, all that fun stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Have a good manager to really work out a working relationship with the UFC where they want to build you up. And that's the issue. That just doesn't seem to be there in like prospect development. That there isn't that conversation of, hey, let's build these guys up. That doesn't happen. If that were to happen, there's no issue with her going to the UFC because she does need time to develop. If you're fighting too stiff a competition on too big of a scene too early, you're going to lose.
It used to happen. Like, remember when Kane or Rory McDonald were legitimately, slow burned?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, McDonald, I think, is the most famous example of it. And that was a great case of them building a prospect and a star, but that seems like it's few and far between, to be honest, for some reason.
Yeah, I mean, the entertainment aspect of sports entertainment getting highlighted more. Keep in mind, there's a talent agency that owns the UFC now, so that's a lot of other stories. We'll go down quite the rabbit hole. So, anything else on the prelim card that got your eyeballs that you just want to share some thoughts on?
Figueiredo and Elliott.
I still haven't seen
that. That was crazy.
Still didn't watch it. Go back and watch it.
Yeah, you were watching unboxing at the time.
Yeah, so. I was watching boxing. Plus, I was kind of just busy. Kind of at that time, it's 3:30 in the West Coast when fights are starting. Like, shit's early. I'm sorry. I'm still a little bit busy during my day.
I was playing video games as I was watching like all the fights today. I was like, this is not going to dominate my existence today. I'm going to reclaim myself just a little bit, just a bit. There's a bit there. So, now I guess the last prelim that I'll mention, Marlon Vera with a nice finish over Andre Ewell. The fight kind of played out as exciting as I thought it would be. I was kind of surprised to see Vera be able to negate Dre's hands as much as he did, but very, very, very good fight on the part of Marlon Vera. So I think this is a 5-fight win streak now. This is a dude we gotta really be paying attention to at bantamweight. And that bantamweight division just keeps getting more and more exciting. So
I got a question. How the fuck? And I asked him this week or last week. How the fuck is he not ranked before this? He won 4 in a row, 4 finishes, and he's not even ranked. And I was looking at it. I mean, that's why the title of my article, he didn't give a fuck anyway. He didn't care. But like the top 3, I think people that were ranked above him were like on. Like, it was like Uriah Faber was in there. Uriah Faber came from 3 years away and jumped right in. I know he'd be a good fighter, but Ricky Simone, I think, was maybe 15. He was at the back end of it. He jumps right in. Like, how do you win 4 in a row at this level, all finishes, and you're not even at least 15, 14? Like, damn, bro, come on.
And he's not getting he's not getting more the name value guys.
Yeah, exactly.
But I think this fight might have been the one that signals like, okay, maybe we should start giving him more of a push, because I firmly thought that the winner of this fight was going to now get that next level of treatment by the promotion, because both guys are very exciting to watch. Both have a lot to offer as far as fan-friendly styles. So, and the personalities. I've interviewed both men, and they both are filled with personality, are likable guys, and just really nice dudes that I think you can get behind as a fan. So I thought this fight was going to kind of determine who might get that next boost up. All right, so let's see. Looks like nothing else you guys want to bring up on the prelims before we either get off the air or to say more shit.
Well, Oscar Willis, who we mentioned in the Mac Life, is listening to the show. He says he's going to call in, so maybe.
That's what's up. All right,
wait a minute for that.
I'm kind of scared right now. Should we even let this clown on there?
Or he's not really going to call in and he's just fucking with me. Either or. Because he posted a picture of him like licking the TV, and it's like us 3 on the TV. Kind of odd, but also like I thank you. I like the compliment.
You enjoy being considered lickable?
Yes, of course, absolutely. It's like when a gay guy hits on me. Like I feel like the compliment.
Well, I want to be lickable from someone that would want to lick me. I don't want Oscar to lick me.
But if Oscar wants to lick you, then he qualifies.
Oh, no, that's not the logic. No.
But yeah, he sent me a picture of him giving the middle finger. So
well, there you go.
Yeah, he's spent. I mean, either way, whether he calls in or not, he will be on the Walkout Network again to do what he does. That's Oscar.
Well, I'll throw out the some one stuff.
Yes,
DJ won the Grand Prix. I mean, King Gad was game, but DJ is just fantastic. Some of the shots for his takedowns were unbelievable. That classic DJ, the guy swinging and he's already up under him. And also, Angela Lee and Zhang Jinan have a really good fight right now too. It's going into the 4th round, probably maybe 2-1 for Angela Lee. But if they're doing international rules, I don't know. She might be winning, but that's a good fight going on right now. A rematch for Angela Lee's atomweight title. Zhang's trying to go champ status with that one.
Yeah, their last fight was insane. That was a great fight. So
Zhang is nasty. I like her, man. She's a little like nasty, just mean chick, man. She
reminds me of Andrade a lot.
Yeah, yes,
like,
yeah.
That's kind of the feel I get from her. She hits hard. She's like she'll smother you. She'll be in your face, and she just has this never die attitude.
Well, she just floored Angela, but Angela's trying to survive. But and I mentioned
you're a little bit ahead of me because they're still kind of trading back and forth right now.
By the way,
I mentioned
Alexander Usyk won. By the way, via 8th round TKO. Went
okay
far too long than expected. Want to add that point in. I got bored with the fight.
So in other words, Tyrone Spong, it would have been his night.
Stop.
Is Usyk? He's like a cruiserweight that's moving up to heavyweight.
Yes,
yes.
Cruiserweight moving up to heavyweight. So a la
so he's
Evander
like
Holyfield.
The new
David Haye.
Evander Holyfield.
Yep.
Kind of type? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Could he be as good as Evander Holyfield? He's good enough that he could beat the top heavyweights.
I mean, Evander was in the second golden age of heavyweight, the silver age of heavyweight. So Evander was able to beat names to solidify himself as a top 15 heavyweight of all time. If Usyk comes in here and beats all these guys, I don't know if he will be there, but definitely I think he has the ability to beat some of these guys for sure. Like he could beat a Wilder, AJ, Ruiz.
Really?
Yeah, I think he could. Am I going to pick him in those fights necessarily? I don't know yet, but he definitely has the ability to beat them.
Who are you picking for Fury Wilder too?
Oh, Wilder for sure. I mean, I've always thought A, Fury is grossly overrated. B, when you're fighting a subpar competition after subpar competition, you're going to sort of lose that sharpened iron that you have. And what we saw in the Otto Wallin fight a month ago, I think, is a bigger issue than just one fight.
Well, I think even bigger that. Who are you picking for Fury Braun Strowman? Reaction. I will say Fury has been great on the WWE stuff. He's fished to water. He's been fucking it. I'm more excited for that to watch that fight or match than Kane versus Brock Lesnar. That looks like that's going to be a much more entertaining fight because he's taking it seriously.
Yeah, like Kane and Brock, we saw that really happen.
Yeah,
so
man.
I'm over it.
Yeah. I didn't need to see it in wrestling. That is weird to me.
I'll be honest, okay?
You're picking Braun? I knew it.
I'll be honest. I could really give
champion
two shits about pro wrestling as a whole. Unfortunately, I've just never really been my thing. However, I would have been interested in that sort of double header, so to speak, right? But then they put it in Saudi Arabia as the second Crown Jewel event, and it's WWE sports watching again, yay! Zippity doo dah, yeah.
So Cole in the chat reminding us that we are of the 20 billion people watching one championship.
Wow,
right now.
We are one, guys. We are one. I like it.
Yeah, we are we are one group of morons.
Well, what do we think the TV numbers are going to be for the TNT? So,
I mean, on a Saturday night, I don't think it's going to be all that. What led into this?
I don't know.
I mean, I wonder
that would help.
Is the baseball playoffs still going on?
Yes.
All right, so it was a playoff game on TNT or something?
Probably.
I don't know.
Because if it led in from
if it's not that, it could be preseason basketball.
Yeah. Okay. So you got to get a tie-in. I did see some promo stuff with some NBA stuff on the screen. I got the sound out obviously, so I can hear you guys. But
more important.
Yeah. So I guess they could have some viewership.
I mean, I wonder if the fact that UFC was on, it's ended a little earlier, at least a segment of UFC fans that are just MMA fans just transitioned over. They, it's gotten decent enough hype that they're like, oh, well, UFC's over. Oh, shit, the one's on. I'll start watching that too then.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. I would imagine so, because I highly doubt that the post fight shows draw in that many people.
Yeah.
Um,
Especially for a whole hum main event that was, clear and decisive. So what do you got to say on that?
Yeah, but the rest of the card, though, it was a lot of cool stuff on the rest of the card. So I give it that. But yeah, I would imagine that somebody just kind of scrolled down and, oh yeah, there's fights on TNT right now, so they tuned in. So that's actually the coolest thing about this whole broadcast deal for One Championship, because now that they've added the paywall to Bleacher Report Live.
That's only one event though. That's only just for this.
Only for this event?
Yeah. When I talked to who, he told me that Bleacher Report wanted to do it because they felt it was going to be big, so they just made it for this. But the next events is going to be regular.
Oh, okay.
Which is good. I mean, it's good in terms of, I guess, money making, stuff like that. But for fans, how many apps do you want to buy to watch MMA at this point? If you already got DAZN, if you already got ESPN Plus, like fuck, I got to buy Bleacher Report too. So I'm glad that
I'm not buying it. Like, like, look, 100% honest. Like, I really don't care about this one card. Like, one has done little to make me care, and I'm more of a casual MMA observer, let's say, than you guys. Not a casual, but more of a casual. It just, even when guys like Aoki are fighting, or DJ, or God, who else would like interest me? Eddie Alvarez, of course. Like, I just
somebody like that.
Even then, like, I don't know if I really care. Like, I don't know if I need to care. Like, that's another thing. And it's a kind of a separate topic, but I think it's connected. When the whole UFC antitrust hearing was happening a few weeks ago, listened to the Show Money podcast with John Nash and Paul Gift, Jason Cruz, all those great guys. John Nash made the argument that the UFC has a monopoly over MMA's championship, in a sense. That universally, people, when you think of who's the best champion in MMA, you're going to think of a UFC champion. You're not going to think of one Bellator, no matter how good they are relative to the UFC counterpart. And I think that is just so ingrained in me, just to be aware of my own bias about UFC versus other promotions, that it's hard for me to go, yeah, one is a real competitor in terms of high-level MMA. Because it's no longer even the Strikeforce sort of days where there was a real number two. The real number two now is Bellator. And even then, I've made the case to Anthony a lot of times. Bellator, in my opinion, is struggling. And if they're not, then I just don't see what other people are seeing then. I think you made this point before, Jason, about how, like, they have not had that big fight, that transcendental moment yet, right? And it feels like a lot of these MMA promotions are just sort of hanging around, not having any real moments that capture the MMA legacy or MMA history in any way. Even though they're all doing relatively good content, none of it seems historic. Unlike other MMA promotions in yesteryear of Pride, Strikeforce, Elite XC, WEC, there's history behind those promotions. While One and Bellator and LFA and PFL, these all just seem like other names in the industry right now, in a very different industry than 2011.
In terms of like the number two talk, I think if anyone, Bellator is kind of like in a weird, just permanent little brother spot that it's going to be hard for them to ever break out of. I think one has the best chance to be a legit number two, in that they're in a market that the UFC really hasn't had a strong place in yet, in Asia, China, Singapore, Philippines, stuff like that. So their champions are relatively a big deal there. Like Aung La Ansang in Burma and Myanmar is like a huge sports icon. They have like statues for him and stuff like that. So they have those representation of faces that UFC isn't connected with. So I think they can do good just by carving out that niche, kind of like Combate is carving out the Spanish niche, and they're getting Spanish fans. So and if they can continue to just cultivate and they can continue to sign UFC names and bring in UFC names that people aren't looking at as like, oh, washed up guys like Sage Northcutt or Eddie Alvarez, DJ, Arjun Bowler they just got. He's from the UFC heavyweight. He was on a 2-fight winning streak and he went there because they're building the Indian market now. So I mean, they have a chance. I don't know if they will, but they just like Pride, similar to what Pride did. They were able to build that Asian market and then slowly work their way up. So if anybody has a chance, it's them. Bellator, as much as I like Bellator and I love PFL's format, they just have a second tier look that's stuck on them.
Well, I think it's more so a matter of how far investors are willing to go, because the advantage that the UFC had when the Fertitas took over was that these were guys with extraordinarily deep pockets who were also true fans of mixed martial arts, and probably for their own emotional standpoint just wanted the sport to succeed, so they kept in it. And they kept in it, and they kept burning money and kept burning money until it finally turned a profit. Now you're gonna have to question the sanity of investors at a certain point with one championship, because all of their numbers aren't aligning up to what they claim, at least the things that we can verify with public record. Looking at things like, whoa,
sorry, Angela Lee
Yeah.
just sub John.
Yeah.
Like 15 seconds left. Wow.
Yeah, that was
big
that
win
was
for her. But yeah.
all right. Yeah, man. So I forgot what I was talking about. So shit.
Investors for one.
Oh yeah. The investors for one, they gotta be like kind of nuts if they're still throwing money into this thing the way that organization has to be burning up cash.
I mean, we don't know. Maybe they are fans. Maybe that's why they're willing to do it. So just like Tony Khan helping with AEW. He's a fan. I'm sure he's probably losing at this point a little bit, but
Yes.
So
Agreed.
maybe I can't say who the investors are, what their interests are, but maybe they are.
And
so yeah, capitalists and stuff.
quickly, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, Ant, but I made this point more about boxing, but it's universal for combat sports right now, and honestly, just maybe even sports as a whole. But there is a ginormous economic bubble right now because of the influx of investment funds, and influx of network funds, and influx of streaming funds into combat sports, where so many fighters now across the board are getting paid far more than market value. Production costs are through the roof. Like, it is a bubble that is not sustainable in any way, shape, or form. And we've had Joe Murkowski of DAZN recently come out and say they're going to drop down the purses for fighters going forward because they have to. I would assume in conjunction with that, they've also talked about letting certain boxers or promotions go if they're not bringing revenue back in. You're going to see this huge bubble of where all these different promotions have gotten deals. All these fighters are making deals and money. That's going to go away soon. And how the industry shakes up and sort of stabilizes after that, I have no idea how it looks like. But it will be radically different. It has to be.
And that's an excellent point, too, because when I was at the last Bellator event in Connecticut, I got to the one time finally got to interview Scott Coker. I asked him about, what does he think about one championship signing, Bellator, or signing people away that Bellator is looking at. And he made the point when he was in Strikeforce in the beginning, there was a bunch of companies then too. There was Bulldog, and there was, a lot of Japanese promotions still around, Dream and stuff like that. And that's why he wasn't sweating the situation with PFL, Combate, because he'd been through it before. And that your point's excellent, because it is going to burst, and they're going to go away. My guess would be PFL, Combate, go away. Bellator's lucky that they have that Viacom money. And one championship's the interesting one. If they can sink, like they can swim, they have a chance to be big.
And
if they sink,
and Ryzen, I would add Ryzen into the mix of the newer promotional companies that have come in because of that influx of cash.
Yeah.
And in 2 or 3 years, when that cash dries up, they might go away too, and that wouldn't be shocking at all.
Yeah. And Ryzen, thing is, I think Ryzen might be able to sustain itself past that bubble simply because they don't put on that many events.
That's a good point.
They've carved out a niche. But I'll tell you this, though, that just shows you the level of what they're looked at in Japan. On this one card, on the part 2, which is pretty cool, they have a 4 champions from Shuto facing 4 champions from Pancrase. Those promotions they were there before Pride, they've been there after Pride. They still, they've carved out that niche, and they're on a 1 championship card. They're not doing this super kind of fight on Ryzen. That would have made more sense since they're all Japanese right. Unity. But both of those companies have become feeder leagues for 1 championship, which shows you the strength and belief 1 championship has, because like how LFA is for UFC, Shamrock FC is for Bellator, they're both feeder leagues. The Japanese are feeding not to Ryzen, to 1 championship.
And I think in large part due to the amount of fights. Like, 1 championship is trying to be like the UFC in Asia. Yeah. Ryzen clearly isn't trying to do that. They're clearly just trying to have these sort of like 4 or 5 events a year, and they're big events, and that's it. And we're good.
And now we're gonna have a Bellator co-promotion at the end of the year again, showing like how strong are they? They are leaning on Bellator a lot. Like I feel Bellator is finally getting what they want because they are in the strength position, so they can get Horiguchi and all these guys stuff like that. Because Ryzen, unlike Dream, or even prior with UFC, where it was really even. Ryzen needs Bellator more than Bellator needs Ryzen.
Oh, absolutely. And plus, I mean, with the Viacom and CBS merger that's probably going to go through or is going through, Bellator's good for a while. And with the Showtime boxing rumors that have been out there, do not be surprised to see Bellator go back to, or Scott Coker, I should say, go back to Showtime.
That'd be good. I'd actually prefer that. I actually like that.
Yeah, actually, in the chat, Rob Iman dropped some good points there. He was saying that Bellator should try to get a fight on CBS since CBS and Viacom will be merging.
That won't happen, and I'll explain why.
The Nashville Brawl?
No, actually, that's not the reason why. Remember, I mean, there were PBC fights on CBS, right? Yeah, Thurman Garcia was on CBS. I think Thurman Porter was on CBS. I think Wilder's on CBS once as well. So there was a period of time where CBS was experimenting with combat sports. But Les Moonves, who was the former executive over at CBS, right? He was the big combat sports head. He got caught up in the Me Too movement, and he no longer is with CBS, and he got fired. Because of that, you see a direct correlation with the stoppage of PBC fights on CBS and then going back to Showtime. So I would actually highly doubt Bellator fights being on CBS. Showtime is clearly what CBS views as their channel and platform for that type of content. So if they want to bring Bellator from Paramount Network, which they should, to more of a CBS network, it has to be Showtime, clearly. Because that's how the executives are looking at the networks. Since the main executive that was there, that was supporting combat sports, is no longer there.
Well then, I guess this will be a fine time to mention another point of his, where he said the UFC should consider putting some fights on ABC next year.
I would love that. I've always been in favor of that.
Yeah, that would actually be a really
ABC
good
Worldwide Sports.
Yeah, like so many Ali fights were
Mike
on
Tyson.
ABC.
You know, ABC used to be the home of prize fighting, and I cannot remember the last time there was a fight on ABC. Can any of us?
Yeah, because PBC never ran an ABC fight, right?
No.
PBC ran Fox,
NBC,
and CBS, but no
ABC.
But did they ever do ESPN? I don't.
Yes, they did. They did a few
Okay,
ESPN cards.
I wasn't quite remembering that.
Thurman was on ESPN. Yes.
Okay.
But they never did ABC. They never had it. They never had an ESPN or ABC or Disney deal. They were time buys. Remember? Yeah. But I'll be honest. I think there has not been a legitimate prize fight on ABC in my lifetime. I'm 24 years old, born '95. That might be true.
Child.
Sorry.
All right. So I guess we're supposed to have another caller. I don't know if he called in.
Oh, he did. Sorry, hold on. I'm calling him back right now. I'm calling him back.
Totally missed that he called.
Well, I don't hear it, so like I have to see it. You know.
You gotta look at the.
Yeah. Okay. Hold on. We're going over to Oscar Willis, aka the chief editor of Mac Life, right?
He
is the Mac Life.
He is the Mac Life. Fuck Conor McGregor.
So he's like the Mac Life Amy Kaplan.
Going over to Oscar Willis.
Oh, there he is. What's up, Oscar?
I'm good until I heard that intro.
What's on your mama, man?
Well, yeah, so obviously Anthony paid me a lot of money to call in today, guys. So I just, thought I'd show up and say hello. But actually, I just had one major question. I was saying, have we ever seen in the, and not to pull your program back to the co-main event, but have we ever seen body shots in an MMA fight like that haven't worked?
Maybe like Bohachina Romero, like the amount of body shots that would land in that fight.
No, but on human beings.
Oh.
The closest I can think of will be fights where like a guy is landing to the body and then he gets clipped to the head and gets put out like Henry Corrales and Aaron Pico, something like that. But yeah, like it's a good point, man, because Kron didn't stop working at all. Like he got ripped to the body repeatedly and did not stop coming forward, did not stop moving, did not stop trying things, even if the things he were trying were outdated by 96.
But I mean, forgive me if I'm wrong. Like, so everyone knows, anyone who trains, and I don't train very hard. I'm a big fat lazy motherfucker. But anyone who trains knows that if you get hit in the head and you get away from the blows, it'll recover. If you get hit in the body, it accumulates. He ate those body punches for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and I just can't believe he did it. And that's really why I'm calling in today, guys. My therapist didn't answer. I need some help. You know, how did he do it?
Well, let's be honest. He is one with the universe through some sort of spiritual drug.
In the flat Earth did he do it?
I don't know, man. Doesn't he also believe that there's a turtle that's under the earth or something like that? Like he's one of those guys, right?
There's not
shaped like an eye or something.
I don't know. Like I think.
Guys, I don't know why you're getting kind of mocking, because that turtle will fucking gobble you guys up. So maybe you should pay their respect.
Kron Gracie is just a weirdo, man. Like I think he might just be like a Jason Mayhem Miller, where he just could take a lot of punishment, but he's not a good fighter.
That is serious disrespect by you.
Okay? Yo, you know what he is? He's the Brazilian Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. That's what he is.
Wow. Okay.
Guys just don't know it yet.
Okay.
We'll just let that hang out in there like the bad farce it was, and we'll move on. Anthony, what do you think?
Yeah. So Oscar, what was did you agree with the Gerald Marchart and Eric Anders scorecard?
Yeah, sure.
All right. So,
I may or may not have been drinking at that point.
Oh, I'm pretty sure you were. Okay.
No, I tell you what.
Never mind.
What I did dislike, the Mike Davis stoppage, man. Like, the one reason why MMA is better than boxing is that we don't let these guys get knocked down, concussed, back up, and done again. And when he got knocked out, Sparko, I feel like his corner and the referee, with all due respect, should have been pretty ashamed of themselves, man. Like, everyone knew he lost that fight. He was getting pieced up, and to see him like flatlined on the floor, it's just like, oh yeah, we probably should have done something, eh? Like, it's pretty bad. I didn't like that.
Yeah, that was definitely one of the worst performances from a referee this year. Like, yeah, that was atrocious. Like when we see a lot of complaints about the referees, most of the time it's going to be early stoppages. It's going to be the GDR versus Aspen Ladd fight or something of that nature, or maybe the confusion of a Ben Askren and Robbie Lawler. But I mean, I'd take that every day, twice over.
But then, fair play to the Florida Commission for pulling him from the rest of the fights and the other referees. I mean, just once again, Florida proving they represent America the best. I mean, great work.
Yes, the hanging Chad of the nation,
literally.
Yeah, so like I will definitely say that I, for one, trash athletic commissions a whole lot. And I know, Jason, I'm sure you can remember some specific times where I really went off the rails talking about athletic commissions. But this is, I think, for all that, we should be praising an athletic commission for something that doesn't happen often enough, and that's actual correction for what's been done wrong.
And realistically, really sorry to interrupt, Jason, but realistically, we should celebrate that, right? Because this is a very emotional thing and a spur of the moment thing. Some people can have a bad night, and even worse, if you have a bad fight and you happen to check Twitter and you see how much hate you're getting, you'll have an even weirder fight the next one. It's better for them to just take you out. I don't know. Sorry. Back to you, Jason.
That's a good point.
I like that he thinks I was talking and not you.
Oh.
It was vodka or proper 12.
Listen, Sunshine, proper 12 available now in Russia. You should all check it out.
Oh, in Russia.
You can also
where it is popular amongst all regions except this one in the mountains. I don't know what it is about that one region.
That one place,
Yeah, weird.
All right, man. So what else stood out to you on this card?
Man, I thought Joanna people were saying, like, you know, it was a vintage Joanna performance, and I think it was nearly a vintage Joanna performance. I thought it was very, very good. One thing I put on Twitter that I saw you liked, Anthony, was, you know, if you ever kick someone's shin, it essentially feels like someone's just stabbed you ground in the neck. I mean, it is so painful. And so to watch Joanna get her leg kick checked, and then to fire one again with the same leg, I mean, that is mental fortitude. Insane. But one thing I will say about Michelle Waterson is, you know, when she got hit, she'd smile. And at no point did I think it was, sorry, that was my laundry going off because I'm a good housewife. But one thing I will say is that when Michelle Waterson smiled, I never felt it was like a fake covering up the pain. I always felt like she was enjoying it in there. Yes. So I think not quite the same as a Kron Gracie, but similar in that you leave the performance thinking, wow, this person looked good, like Cub and Joanna look good, but you have to take your hat off to Kron and to Michelle and say, wow, they're, you know, tough as nails.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, typically though, if you're being complimented on your toughness in mixed martial arts, something went real wrong.
That is irritatingly true.
All right, so I think that probably will do it for us here on the Walkout Network. Oscar, thank you for calling in the show. Well, I'm sure actually I'll probably call you in just a second because we had some fun stuff to talk about. But anyway, let's go ahead and
bring the loop. All right,
bro. So Matt, tell the good folks where they can find you.
You can find me, Matt Hunter, MCR, all platforms on social media. My own show and channel outlet, mixedcombatradio.com, Mixed Combat Radio on YouTube, podcast form, all that fun stuff. Check it out. Obviously, I do work for Showdog.com as well. Yeah, that's about it.
All right. So, Captain Credential, tell the good folks where you can be found being demoted next time you piss me off.
Wow, thank you. Cheap Seats Chat on Instagram and Twitter as always. Just submitted a story for Alex Davis, the MMA manager, and Goichi Yamauchi. Hopefully those come out maybe next week or whatever.
Wait. Alex Davis, the one that manages guys like who's he manage? A bunch of Brazilian guys, right?
Yes.
Yeah, he doesn't like me at all.
Oh, wow. He's so nice too. Damn.
No, Ant knows this. This guy does not like me. And
okay, we'll talk off air, but this is the guy I'm thinking of. Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Wow. All right, and then I'm going tomorrow to interview Julio Arce, Shane Burgos, and Lyman Good all at once because they're going to be on the MSG card November 2nd, and they're all from Tiger Showman's going to the headquarters to interview them tomorrow. So look for that hopefully maybe the next couple of weeks or whatever, but that's about it for me.
All right, cool. So you know where to find me, Ant Walker MMA, on Twitter, on Instagram. Don't post much on Instagram, but follow me anyway, just in case I do. The good, bad, and the ugly, the post-fight column will be going live tomorrow. Ask Ant. The mailbag column is live as of this morning, I believe. So go ahead, check that out. And the trenches will be live next week. Myself and the hipster Matt Hunter, who's on this panel, replacing the trash that is Captain Credential Jason Burgos.
A hard act to follow.
And Ben Duffy too.
And Ben Duffy.
Trash.
Yeah.
But me and Ben do another show together. So all right. So and also yes, that show should be live Tuesday. That show is called Unleashed on this channel, the Walkout Network. A panel discussion. Join it, mofos or else. So he's Jason. He's Matt. I'm Matt. You know what you got to do. You got to stay beautiful. You got to stay positive.
You do that here too? Oh my God.
Got to stay sexy. I will see you when I see you. Peace.
You need to have different closings for different shows.
That's my clothes. Why I gotta have?
That's your Trenches trademark clothes.
All these different clothes. That's what I say.
I am personally offended. You use that.
I'm ready.